Shalafka and Kareem Mays. We are waiting for CD McRae to join in here, but she is coming. Uh, just give her errand running time, and we're going to cover some other stuff in between then. I guess one thing that happened right before I came live was Coolio. I found out he passed away, and that was sad. So I figured we'd mention that. Not really a political
R.I.P. to
topic, but
Coolio.
it is
I'm
definitely sad.
not a fan of Coolio because he got mad at Weird Al because Weird Al was trying to have some fun. I'm like, dude, Weird Al makes fun of you.
Fucking
Like,
Weird Al.
Weird Al can be a bit off the rocker.
well, I'm a bit off
shit.
the rocker.
His fans are trash. That's why I don't like Weird Al.
What?
His fan base is garbage.
Oh shit! I'm sorry, Curry. Like, if you ever met like a real, we always a fucking like absolute socially inept weirdo. 99.
Oh, so we should join the Libertarian Party, I guess.
Yeah, but pretty like our libertarians, as coincidentally as it may seem.
Yes.
Do you happen to be a Weird Al fan?
Yeah, I grew up on that stuff.
So I did grow up listening.
Amish Paradise. Let's blast some Amish Paradise from a boy. We've been men in most our lives. Yeah, it's funny because I thought it was funny. He made fun of like Kurt Cobain. He made fun of Kurt Cobain. Kurt Cobain didn't lose his mind. Like, oh my god, he's leaving me.
So I have been a fan of Weird Al. I'm going to be. This is my coming out here. I can actually sing Amish Paradise, like without needing to hear it, because we used to listen to so much Weird Al as a kid, because my dad was a fan and my mom was a fan of his stuff. My grandfather used to like burn CDs, and he'd give it to the family to play on like road trips and stuff. And almost always it would be like David Allan Coe and Weird Al and all these weird songs that he would find just to mess with the kids. So yeah, I can recite. The other one is the parody of Don McLean he did, the Jedi song, the one about Star Wars. I can recite that one like word to word, same thing. But Amish Paradise is hilarious. I was mad that Coolio got mad about it back in the day, but I do love like Weird Al in general. And Coolio's music was great. Like the lyrics to Gangster's Paradise, I have like shown to libertarians being like, if you actually break down the lyrics of the song, it's really interesting. You just have to like not be retarded. So we're kind of moving on. Welcome to CD.
Hi guys, I made it. I promise. I'm sorry. I had to make a pit stop.
Well, we were late anyway as usual, so really you're only like a couple minutes off.
Stayed on brand.
Yeah, right on time, still late and gay.
Yes. Yeah, I saw that 2 minutes live. I was like, oh, I'm not this early to work.
So we will start with the pipeline debacle that is going on right now, which is that the U.S. is going to try to play off every ploy that this was not anything to do with us, but I don't think any of us believe that.
Like what they said, you know what I mean? But
that's what Darth Brandon said.
Yeah.
And then he forgot a congresswoman died. It was a Republican, which is good. I mean, I think that's
the
funny.
Nord
He forgot.
Stream 2 pipeline spontaneously combusted, guys. Official
Yep.
report.
Oops.
Yeah, it was climate change.
Turns
Climate
out.
change,
Turns.
guys.
Oh,
That's
God.
why we need the vote. Big bubble, blue wave. You don't. See
Don't
the
you know how this
connection?
works? The ice caps melt, pipelines burst. This is how it happens.
Yeah, if more people ate bugs,
Blue
this
wave
wouldn't have happened.
It happens.
Eats a bug.
Normal shit.
This is one of those stories that just kind of baffles me. And I saw a meme earlier. I can't remember what libertarian account posted it, but it was just like somebody the butterfly meme where the person's like letting the butterfly go, and it says, "Is this Franz Ferdinand?" And I was like, "Oh God, oh no!" But Well,
Good joke.
so seismologists, those are the people that measure size of penises professionally, suspect explosions damaged undersea pipelines that carry Russian gas.
Seismologists.
What? Am I wrong
I'm in
about
the
that?
wrong. I'm sorry. What? I'm in the wrong field. I'm sorry. What was that?
No, you're in the right field. It's a field of
For the-
dicks.
in a liberty sphere, yeah, sure, yeah. I feel like I really missed my calling as a what?
It's a what? Seismologist.
Biologist.
It's the art of
You
measuring
measure
penises
sizes.
professionally.
They didn't tell me that part whenever I was in the Catholic school guidance office that was an option in life.
I heard janitor,
One
nurse,
This much,
doctor.
you do this much.
I didn't hear penis measurement.
I would have
Catholic
raised my
school.
hand immediately.
I just love the phrasing of this
"Ooh,
article too. 2 undersea leaks that began in the Russian-owned Nord Stream gas pipeline on Monday. Like, oh, just 2 leaks. They just happened. We don't know how they got there. It is very clear that from the seismic record, so they measured the penises, that they are blasts. Bjorn Lund, director of Swedish National Seismic Network at Uppsala University, told NPR in a phone interview, "These are not earthquakes. They are not landslides underwater." German and Danish officials said both the Nord Stream 1 and Nord Stream 2 pipelines showed sudden losses of pressure late Monday, which they said could be caused by a leak from large holes in the pipeline. Neither of the pipelines are active, as Russia has cut gas deliveries in them, but both were filled with natural gas when the drop in pressure occurred. Russian energy giant Gazprom, a state entity, owns a controlling interest in both pipelines. Denmark's Prime Minister, Mette Frederiksen, said on Thursday that her government suspected the leaks were deliberate actions. So, I guess we will cover this in the lieu of this. The media, including CNN and Fox and all these other agencies, are basically blaming this solely on either Russia did this to themselves or it's a freak accident. Neither of those are fucking sane whatsoever. So it is fairly clear to me that the US or a European country like the UK just submarine bombed a fucking pipeline. Like that's what this looks like to me.
Yeah.
So
I highly doubt the UK had it. Well, for one,
this is the US written all over it.
Yeah, this is America.
We said we were gonna do it.
Yeah.
We said we were gonna do it.
Sleepy
We
Joe said,
can do it.
Darth Brandon said he was going to do it. He's like, oh,
So-
do you have the clip of that? Do you want me to pull up the clip?
Yes,
Send me a link. Send me a link in the private chat, and I'll bring it right up.
Yes, because
He asked him, how
Joe
he
said
said
we
the
were going
North
to do
Stream.
that.
Yeah.
Mhm.
This
Sleepy
is not
Joe.
news. I mean, it's news
Yeah.
now. Hey, can we go back
Do
to
it.
like 1968 real quick and find out if they thought or they tried to say that the Tet Offensive was an accident?
Right. Yeah. Or like, yeah. Yeah. Well,
Or
it's like
that
I
one
was.
time, or like
I
that
would-
one time.
I was just picking up a vape over at the vape shop here downtown, and me and him, the guy who owns the place, we talk conspiracy stuff, and I was like, yeah, think about it this way, like, this is exactly the same scenario that played out with Pearl Harbor, 9/11, with Gulf of Tonkin, with Vietnam, with basically everything our military has ever done has started this way.
Yeah. Did you know? And Alex Jones is right. Even though I don't like him and Steven Crowder really that much anymore, and his turmeric sales are BS, I can get better turmeric. But he was correct that they did know about Pearl Harbor. So even Pearl Harbor is a thing. Does your conspiracy friend believe in shape-shifting reptilians?
Who here doesn't believe in shape-shifting reptilians?
I don't know. I believe in shitty turmeric. Kareem out here policing the world of turmeric. I love it. The U.S. sure loves accusing every other country of false flags. Yeah, precisely the scenario, right? They're like, Russia did it, because that makes sense. Russia has the pipeline in their country, and they can just turn the spigot off. But of course, instead of doing that, they're going to blow up the center of their pipeline. Like, it's like, wait a minute. Like, you understand that the pipeline is in Russia. Like, they can just turn the knob. Like,
Yeah, this is dumber.
They
This is
don't understand.
almost
That's
as
the part. They don't
stupid.
know. They've never heard of the Nord Stream. That's why I was like, it's apparently
Josh
not
might-
a billion plus. Like, who'd have thought? What the
Josh
fuck?
might remember this one. Josh might remember this one. I don't know if you're old enough, Leighton, but to start Iraq, they got this woman to lie and say Saddam's troops were taking Iranian babies out of incubators. I'm like, do people believe that shit? I'm like,
it's the gassing his own people bullshit all over again. It's just
oh
a
yeah, Assad gassed his own people when he's winning the war too. I'm just like,
and I don't have to be that old to know that. I've read books.
Fair enough, but there's a lot. They hide stuff pretty well. They're like, oh, we didn't lie about that. And I'm like, yeah, you did. They're like,
yeah.
"Ooh,
Well, this is the thing, right? So they blew up a pipeline that wasn't operational yet. Was it?
I don't know if it was all
Like,
right.
this is the thing, right? Like, the media is reporting that it was that it had gas in it, but they're also saying at the same time that gas wasn't moving. Do we actually believe that?
No,
So
I don't think, dude. If you
Let me-
believe that, I'm gonna smack somebody. I don't care.
Let me-
The NAP's out the window.
Kareem, you may get your smacking pimp hands. Want to play devil's advocate here for a minute?
I'm Weird
So-
Al fanning you.
What's up?
man.
What's up? What's up? What's up?
All right. So the
Some Russian. God damn it! That is such a good chat. In a few days, they may find some Russian passports by the pipeline. Was it Ryan Dawson just slipped into my?
it's actually funny earlier where it was like breaking news, like it was the unharmed Russian passport found near pipeline explosion. Irregardless, so what the official story is that the pipeline wasn't actually in use, deemed like operational and commissioned. They had to like fill it and have it run a bunch of tests and shit. So that was why there was gas in there actually moving.
Right.
Now,
Okay.
as far as why would the Russians like bomb their own pipeline in their own country? It's like, why would the U.S. buildings in their own country to start a war? Because you need an excuse side to rally your people. Oh, look, we blow up the pipeline, and it's completely plausible right now because all of us are
No,
going,
it isn't.
look, Dark Biden, so it's obvious that they did blow it up. Russia
But
blows it up and goes, yeah, U.S. did it. Of course they were going to. Look, Brandon said it himself. Same thing Kareem saying. And Vladimir, his people be like, God damn those fucking Americans blowing up our shitty pipeline.
But here's the thing. Someone brought this up on Timcast. Not that I agree with it. And they said generally people do false flags to get into war. But once you're into war, you're into it. There's not like an additional kick that you need. Like they've already been in war for a while. And to me, Joe Biden said he was going to do it. He said specifically here, whether you believe him or not, that they would do it. So I don't know. I don't think even to boost. I don't know if I buy that he did it to boost morale.
So here's the thing: Putin got into power through false flags. Like that's how he got to the position he's in. We all know this, right? Like he did this by bombing his own people, realistically, and blaming it on other countries. So I don't think he's above doing what Josh just said. The problem that I find is, from a strategic standpoint, Russia just built that pipeline. They spent a lot of infrastructure dollars, and the idea that they're going to destroy something or demobilize it long term or even short term when they can just turn the spigot off. I don't know. I understand how it can goad people into getting involved, but at the same time, like when you have like this clip that I'll play here that Kareem sent me, it does make me think, well, they did probably do this.
Wait, time out. Can we pause it
Question
really
each,
quick?
yeah.
I just want to point out to the people who may not be watching, this man that is about to introduce the now president, if you've ever seen What We Do in the Shadows, this man looks just like Colin Robinson. Has anyone seen that show?
I have not.
Okay, well, he's an energy vampire, and he literally lives
Jesus.
off of taking your energy and boring you to death.
I
And
just learned that CD McRae. I just learned that CD probably watches Twilight.
Bro, what the fuck? Fuck off with that bullshit. Anyway, and that has nothing to do. Fuck off. Anyone that has ever seen
Is emo Chris Gaines in it? Is emo Chris Gaines in
Is
it?
Chris
No,
Gaines
I
in
would
it?
know. I would know if Chris Gaines was in it, and I would have seen it. Kareem.
She's so offended.
Chill out. Snort's Adderall.
Twilight.
Triggered
Hell,
CD.
Twilight. Fuck that
How are
shit.
you so mad? Chill out. Drink
Bro,
some beer.
She's cussing. She's cussing us out. She's got 3 signed copies sitting on a bookshelf.
Do you not have any marijuana?
See what's funny? That's funny you bring that up. That's why I was late. That's why I was late.
that was the errand you had to run. I went to get a vape. You went to get weed.
Degenerate.
Anyway, I just think it's ironic that the character I'm speaking of, Nazi Colin Robinson. Okay, Joe understands what I'm saying. This man looks like that character, and that character is an energy vampire, and he lives off stealing your energy by boring you. And I find it funny.
So he's Joe Biden?
Yes, like that. Seriously, and this guy looks just like him, and he is like obviously some sort of introducer at something extremely boring. It fits. Okay, dude.
All right,
you can go to bed now. That's all.
All right.
That's all.
Reuters, Andrea, you got the first question.
Thank you, Mr. President, and thank you, Chancellor
So I do want to point out this is February 7th, 2022.
Schultz. Mr. President, I have wanted to ask you about this Nord Stream project that you've long opposed. You didn't mention it just now by name, nor did Chancellor Scholz. Did you receive assurances from Chancellor Scholz today that Germany will in fact pull the plug on this project if Russia invades Ukraine? And did you discuss what the definition of invasion could be? And then Chancellor Scholz, wenn ich Sie fragen darf,
if I may ask you, Chancellor Scholz, you said there was some strategic ambiguity that was needed in terms of sanctions. I just wanted to know whether the sanctions you are envisaging and the EU is working on, and the US as well, are already finished, finalized, or is there still work ongoing? And
dass Sie das nicht sagen wollen, was genau da drin ist.
You're not really saying what the details are. Is that just an excuse for Germany maybe to not support the SWIFT measures?
Let me answer the first question first. If Russia invades, that means tanks or troops crossing the border of Ukraine again. Then there will be no longer a Nord Stream 2. We will bring an end to it.
How will you do that?
So I want to point out, I love this fucking reporter, but her reaction to that was so fucking genuine that I'm gonna back it up like 2 seconds. Because just look at her, listen to her reaction to him saying we'll end it.
At least he got the country.
How will you do that? Exactly, since the project and control of the project is within Germany's control.
We will. I promise you, we'll be able to do it.
What? Just look at the smirk.
Thank you very much for your question.
Dude, yeah, that's the smirk of a man who will genocide people.
Now that's what we believe that the U.S. definitely submarine torpedoes.
That's she was 12, I was 30 smirk.
That was, we knew there was innocent children at drone strike anyway. Fuck them. Fuck
Yeah.
them kids.
We have intensively prepared everything to be ready with the necessary sanctions if there is a military aggression against Ukraine. And this is necessary. It is necessary that we do this in advance so that Russia can clearly understand that these are far-reaching, severe measures. It is part of the...
Yeah, severe measures, C4. that was the severe measures.
Hey, CIA, what you doing? Hi. Oh, could you blow up the pipeline? Ooh, sure.
It was not a threat. It was just his stutter. No.
At least he knows where he is.
The U.S. the White House needs to issue a statement on why what the president just said wasn't what he really just said. So those have been fucking hilarious. His new press secretary having to get up there and be like, well, the president said this one thing, but what he really meant was this. And it's like, wait, but that's not how like English works. Like, I don't understand.
It's like, we will defend Taiwan. They're like, no.
Wait, actually, the president meant to say the toilet is brown. He asked us to launch nukes. They will literally just create entire sentences out of grunts and moans that he's made in speeches and be like, well, he actually meant to say this. It just doesn't make sense.
It's ridiculous. Why can't they just say Klaus Schwab's the president? Okay, then we're all good.
Fucking Christ.
And he's a shape-shifting reptilian like the Rothschilds.
The dude that's on screen looks like a shape-shifting reptilian. Like, if that dude pulled off his entire face and said, I'm actually a guy from, like, South Africa, and my name is Ted, like, it would be totally believable.
Because he's a vampire. I don't know how else to explain this to you. He's a vampire. I've seen him. He's on a TV show.
Apparently, everybody's watching the Dahmer series, so I guess it's appropriate.
Well, all of you go watch Twilight and go find this guy in it for CD.
Oh my God, guys. You're giving free ads to the wrong thing, man.
I don't know what you're talking about.
Or whatever. I don't watch her, him, whatever.
I don't know. CDs and the glitter. That's all I hear. the shimmer skin or whatever the fuck they had in that movie. Dude, I got a story about this actually. So this is a great story. Okay. So I was at a movie theater, right? And I used to be obsessed with Harry Potter. It was like something I read the books and stuff when I was really young. It was like one of the first book series.
That's not a lie, but keep
going. I went to the premiere of the last movie. And that was like a thing I wanted to do. I went to both premieres of the last parts of the last movie. The first part of it, when I showed up to the movie theater, they were showing a Twilight film at the same time. It was a re-showing thing. I don't think it was actually meant to be playing, but it was like a costume thing they were doing for it. So there's a bunch of people that are dressed up in like fucking vampire costumes and bullshit, right? And there's this chick who's wearing nothing but a bra, like a black bra, that covers barely 80% of her tits. Like, so you get the top half and then nothing else. And then, like,
was she hot?
Black Daisy. Oh, she's a good-looking girl. Like, short Daisy Dukes, right? But she had covered herself in, like, this white fluorescent glitter shit, right? And to the point where she looked opaque white, but when you got up close to her, it was all this glitter. And there were all these guys who were like, this is cool, this is cool, this is cool. And I went to my buddy and I tell him, wait until, like, because I have a bunch of friends that worked at the Wasilla theater that I went to. So I talked to one of my buddies, and he later that night sent me a photo of the movie theater chair that this woman was sitting in, because they were the ones that had to clean it. And there was a perfect imprint of glitter and white paint all over one seat. And then you could tell every other seat she had moved through with her friends, because there'd be a trail of like shitty stripper glitter across the movie theater. It's one of my favorite stories. That chick was fucking...
That's phenomenal.
Those people are crazy. It's like Disney stands.
That's like I've all seen. You're familiar with the emo and goth versus emo episode of South Park, correct? Yes. Okay, that's what that is. Like, I am a guy. Like, stop.
No.
It's horrible.
I'm convinced now.
No one wants that. I don't want it. No one wants. Yeah, it's just the worst.
Also, everybody shame Sharon for not staying up for this.
Yeah. Hey, does Sharon make cartoons? Because then you could really shame us.
Then you can really shame us. She does not make cartoons.
You deserve to get smacked for that pun. Oh, CD has a doggo.
Let's go.
Doggo, he wants to be on camera. He also very much. This is Lincoln. He's my best friend.
Here we go. And he's tired. Yeah, I heard he killed 500,000 Americans though.
I know. Look, man, I inherited that name. I didn't choose that name, and
the meme chose you.
It just, I can't. I mean, that's his name. So, but for like how horrible his namesake is, he's a good.
All right, so CD, I'm gonna ask you the magic question here. Should we cover some of the stuff you sent me first, or should we get into the Adnan Syed thing briefly?
If you want to get into Adnan, we can do Adnan real briefly. We don't need to get into.
It's not going to be anything deep.
I really want to just stick to like the overarching, not if he's guilty or not, but the trial.
I think we can give a brief summary of events.
Okay. As long as we can do that, we don't need to get into the specifics of the evidence.
No, I'm not gonna. We'll save that for another time if we need to. Do that again. I do think there's a person I have talked to on Twitter now in the libertarian space who might come on and talk about it, who has some opinions similar to mine. So we're kind of putting that together. But so this guy was arrested, charged with murder. A podcast came out made by NPR called Serial in 2013? 13? Yeah, I thought so. So 2013 came out, and then that podcast was basically a summary of the events of the trial primarily. It went over the fact that the lawyer in the case had a disease that they did not disclose. It went over the fact that there was shoddy evidence within some phone record data that was presented to the jury, specifically, and then some testimony by an individual named Jay. That Joey, 2 guns and 2 drunks. So that
grow up, boy. This is America.
That trial went through. He was convicted. But then the podcast came out, and it raised some suspicions. There was originally some arguments for retrial in the case about 4 or 5 years ago, and it looked like that was actually going to happen for a while. Then it went to another case, and they ended up remanding the sentence, so they kept him guilty. And then recently, just about a week ago, I think at this point, a DA in the area took up the case and ended up getting the conviction. What was it? Vacated? Is that the word they used?
I think it was. It wasn't overturned.
Basically, it wasn't overturned. It wasn't. So, basically, they just
are bad. That's bad.
They're basically saying that it was bungled because the trial was not good. There are 2 arguments being made, I think, on the internet and to some degree media, although one side doesn't get a lot of press, which is that we're not going to get into this super deep here, but I don't personally think this guy is necessarily not guilty. I've seen some breakdowns of evidence, and I've looked at the court stuff, and it's something I want to do on the channel kind of more deeply, especially if no one else does it. Because I haven't seen. Well, I've seen a lot of mainstream media breaking down what happened just now, but I haven't seen anybody put it all together. So if that hasn't happened, then I might be planning a stream to do something for a couple hours and just go over all of this stuff. But I guess what I would contend is this is a situation sort of like the Bill Cosby thing, where we know this guy did something, but he's going to get away with it because the court's fucked. The court's fucked because the same way it's always fucked, because you have bad cops, bad lawyers, and shitty fucking people in bureaucracy. So I have some differing opinions, I think, than some people on this, because I don't think that I don't think this means this guy is innocent of murder, I guess would be what I say. He is innocent of murder in the trial, but from a moral degree, it's different for me. So it's and I talked about that with the Cosby stuff for similar reasons, because the Cosby shit was well, this guy admitted to unknowingly drugging people, but at the same time, this is a report that was given under the guides that it wouldn't be used against him, and the judge and the lawyers knew that, and then they tried to use it against him anyway, and it's well, no, you can't do that. And so regardless of, whether you think this guy's innocent or guilty, he's going to walk. This guy spent time in jail, so it's not like he didn't get some punishment if he was guilty.
19 years in jail.
Well, I think that's one reason why I'm not angry that he was let out. I just don't necessarily think that this guy was not guilty. I would have been more comfortable if 5 years ago they had made the decision to retrial, because you would have had grievances of things like witnesses and stuff like that I think now we don't ever get to see, which is disappointing to me, because it's
right. I know, they should have done this 10 years ago.
It's the bureaucracy of it's that government system is fucked, man. When you
you glossed over, Leighton, is that this podcast came out in 2013, but this trial was in 2001.
Right, so it started in 2000, closed out. Yeah, the murder took place in late 99, and then it was 2000. I think he was charged, and 2001 is when the trial happened.
So dude, if you look like Kareem, you were fucking and they
girlfriend.
You were going to fucking jail, period.
So one piece of evidence, for instance, not to harp on it, but one thing that a lot of people are removing from this is the girlfriend that was actually, I think her name was Kim Lee, that was actually killed. One of the pieces of evidence that was entered into the trial, which was glossed over widely by the podcast as well, Serial, was the diary which she had.
Yes.
Which went over multiple entries that this guy was contacting her nonstop. She had warned multiple people at her university not to give her location to this guy, and she was visibly and with her friends and people around her and in her own diaries, private thoughts, talking about how this guy was kind of stalking her in a way, is what it sounds. And then she turns up dead, and I think he's been turned into a bit of a hero in the media's eyes, and in this podcast fan base's eyes, especially, in a way that I think is probably not healthy long term, because there's a lot of stuff that goes into this that isn't just I understand when you go you have this case and you have this guy who's in jail for 19 years and it doesn't appear he's got a good trial. I'm not angry about him being let out, because he spent 19 years in fucking prison, and there is a possibility that if he was retried, that he would be found not guilty. And so it's how do you justify that guy being in jail for 19 years? You can't. But at the same time, I can look at a bunch of evidence and look at a bunch of details that is hard evidence, that isn't disputed from either side, and go, this doesn't look really good.
Right. And the supplement podcast that came out, now it's gone on to become its own thing, but it started because it's called Undisclosed, and it was the supplement podcast to Serial, and that was with Adnan's actual defense attorney and their
team. And I will reference one thing with that, which is go listen to that, because it's really important to listen to, because there's some really good information in there. and then listen to Sword and Scales, which is he's another true crime podcaster on YouTube. Go check out his Twitter. Search Adnan's name on his Twitter feed and read some of that. And then go watch a YouTube video that he posted about 2 years ago or a year ago. It's like 30 minutes long. And it's him talking about what that defense attorney and some of Adnan's family did to him and that group of the internet. Because I want to be very clear, like, this entire thing is political from both sides.
Yes.
And that's one of the big problems I have with the vacation of the sentence versus a retrial, is that is done for political means. That was for that DA to be the guy who vacated the sentence of somebody who is going to ultimately get him reelected or re-put back into a better position or get a raise or get a promotion. And a retrial could have meant that same DA lost and got the opposite. So they kind of took the easy road out. And I don't know how we're going to look at that in 5-10 years once some more information. There's a lot of YouTubers and super sleuths that are going after info in this case.
But I mean,
I think there's a lot of evidence that point to him being the best suspect. And everybody keeps going, well, there's other suspects. The problem is that every other person that I've seen in the suspect list outside of Adnan has been either ruled out preliminarily because they had a hardcore alibi with multiple people citing them as being in one area, which Adnan did not have. He claims to have a hardcore alibi and then never actually put that person forward, which is really kind of weird. And then
later.
Yeah, the problem that I have with that is it's like, if you have this hardcore thing that you're claiming can get you out of this case, and you choose not to put that person forward, it sort of points to me that this person came in after the fact, and just like the cops coached somebody, we now know, the same exact thing can be happening on the other side. And whether or not I think that's right or wrong is another fucking story, because I think you're being put in a situation where the government's coming after you. So I think you're going to be allowed to do some things that neither of us are probably okay with to an extent, morally. At the same time, I'm like, there's degrees to it where I'm like, yeah, I just think it comes down to this. You have to go, the story the cops put forward needs to be thrown out the fucking window because it was bad from the get-go. So instead, look at all the evidence that's there and go, what evidence is there that somebody else did this? What evidence is there that he did this? And you're never going to have the real answer because there's never going to be another trial. You just have to come up with your own opinion on a moral basis.
Yeah.
If you're,
I got it for you.
That's my
point. If the glove doesn't fit, you must acquit.
Right. I mean, that's my point.
But in court, that's how it works.
If we don't have some sort of equity in like how this shit's run and a standard, then it's just a kangaroo court. And then we should just do that.
Yeah, you're 100% true. Yeah, you're right.
And so that's been my point this whole time is that, would I have preferred a mistrial to let him out on bail and so he could go home until he was proven guilty or not? Yes, and that's what should have been done. That's exactly
that's what.
I just but it wasn't, and I mean, whenever courts like that become political, not that the four of us have much faith in any system, much less the justice one, but like a lot of people do. Whenever they just start to use it for, they're blatantly using it for political gain.
Right.
That's when we should say, whoa, wait a minute. Maybe he did kill maybe he did kill her. Maybe he did.
Maybe he did. I want to bring up a separate point though, because I think this is interesting and it's something I looked at. So I don't know if anybody follows the Minnesota Mises Caucus. I don't live in Minnesota, but my boy Jacob Keltz does, and to me, I've looked at they have some pretty good stuff. One is they had David
Brady.
I think it's
David Brady.
Maybe they had David Brady. That'd be cool.
Minnesota.
But they had I think it's like David Hell something. I'll pull it up. But his idea was, and I did look in Wikipedia, funny enough, just to verify it. But I don't think it'd be a reasonable or a crazy ANCAP position to say, get rid of all of these courts now and just install common law courts.
I mean, yeah.
I don't think that's insane. Sure. No, that'd work. I think we all agree on that stuff. I don't think there's a disagreement there. This is the only disagreement that will ever exist between anybody with this case is on a moral level after the fact of whether you think he's actually guilty or not. That's it. Because that's all we'll ever get. You don't get anything else. Like, the government's not going to help us make that decision. The guy gets to live his life. He gets to do whatever the fuck he wants. He's a free man. That's how it works. But just like there's a lot of other free people walking around in the government in different places I think did horrible shit, I might still garner the idea that this guy did it. And I think that there's some other people who will kind of come down to that side eventually too. I mean, it's like the OJ thing. The majority of the world at one point thought that guy was innocent until one day they didn't. And it's like, so it's a similar situation where it's like, yeah, this guy could be seen as an innocent man for another 8 years. And then some guy's going to find some evidence that goes, hey, wait a minute, So it is what it is.
And I mean, I've never been sold once that he did or didn't do it. There's never that's always been my point. Is
I'm not really sold on him doing it.
There's just not enough of reasonable doubt in my mind to convict him to life. That's all I've ever said is that.
Yeah.
I
definitely not.
I would have taken manslaughter. I would have taken some sort of, just say maybe he didn't do it. He had part in it. Obviously, that body was in his trunk. She was in the trunk of his car.
Right.
So, I mean, whether he drove it or not, whether he was there or not,
kind of hard to get away from that. All right. We can go ahead and move on to other stuff here. Let's cover. You want to do the Jan? You want to do the Jan 6 stuff? You want to do Lizzo with the flute?
Why is Tim so upset? He's like,
Lizzo with the flute. What are you talking about?
I don't see that as that. Okay.
So Lizzo got to play like a 100-year-old flute at one of her concerts that's being held by Congress. That was
she changed James Madison's fucking flute.
Yeah.
Oh, that's
James Madison.
That's funny. What?
I saw there were people like, this is a desecration. I'm like,
it's hilarious.
Bro, that's probably her great grandfather. What the fuck?
Could be. TJ was hitting them up. He's like, all right, honey, let's get all the kids in this picture.
I'm telling you.
You ever seen that Family Guy skit?
Anything about James Madison at all? No?
I'm sure he's like, hey, all right. Hey, his slaves weren't just working out in the field, if you know what I mean.
Of course they weren't.
They were.
All right. Here's a fun story.
This is this shit right here.
Here's a lighthearted one. Chuck Schumer fuels rainbow fentanyl Halloween fears. So is this a clip we can listen to here?
I mean, it's a minute long, yeah.
Careful. YouTube gave me a warning over talking about stuff like this.
We can just read it. I don't want to watch that. It's got a bunch of extra stuff in it.
Okay. Look.
Democratic Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer has warned rainbow fentanyl may be distributed during Halloween to get children hooked. Speaking on Sunday outside his New York office, Schumer said rainbow fentanyl was one of the biggest health issues facing the country right now. He also said he wants $290 million to help fight the addicted. That is a fucking retarded sentence. He also said he wants $290 million to help fight the addictive opioid is gaining in America. I hate the way that trips me up every time. Okay. This comes after the drug enforcement.
Just a little bit. Just scroll down past this picture. Pass it. Keep going. Okay, there you go.
Okay.
Yeah.
Rainbow fentanyl pills and the powder that come in a variety of bright colors, shapes, and sizes is a deliberate effort by drug traffickers to drive addiction among kids and young adults. DEA Administrator Ann Milgram. Also, her name is fucking Milgram? The DEA Administrator's last name is Milgram. That's fucking... That is something out of a cartoon.
It's a glitch in the Matrix, and I love it.
The men and women of the DEA are relentlessly working to stop the trafficking of rainbow fentanyl and defeat the Mexican drug cartels that are responsible for the vast majority of fentanyl that is being trafficked into the U.S. During his press conference, Schumer also highlighted this and the danger of young people face.
No. This is my favorite part. This is fentanyl, and he holds up a picture, and he says, "This is a sweetheart." They look nothing alike. Okay, first of all, if you're a kid, one is small and big, it has an M on it, and one has nothing. Give me a fucking break. And so that shit's really funny. So your grandpa, it's like your grandpa, just back in my day, and it's terrible.
The DEA is like, we keep finding fentanyl candy inside of dogs all across America.
What the fuck? Yeah,
we've been shooting them left and right to find it.
Wait, go back up a little bit, because I want to get to what he says. Yeah. We're going to use $290 million.
Okay.
Rainbow fentanyl for diversity.
Okay, I got it. These drug traffickers are doubling down on their bet to hook young children or young people. He also said during his press conference, and unfortunately, they're having success. We cannot let this happen. So I'm going to make sure that in the federal budget we are moving on this week is $290 million to fight the scourge of fentanyl and rainbow fentanyl. In particular, so there's money for what is called ORS teams, overdose response strategy teams, that go after the drug dealers and help warn kids about the danger of this range of rainbow fentanyl. So he's recreating DARE.
Yes. Yes.
The DEA.
Yes.
That's DARE 2.0.
I mean, here's the funny thing to me. For multiple reasons, I find this hilarious. One, because of what CD's saying. Two, because they look nothing alike. Three,
the LGBTQ community must be happy about this. This is great strides.
He's talking about ending rainbow fentanyl, but he doesn't include the white fentanyl in that. What are you talking about? They're fucking pissed.
I mean,
that's my point. I was being sarcastic.
Beyond fentanyl, I believe there's okay. I believe the government, if the government's so concerned about drugs, hey, why are they pushing? To me, the worst drug or substance out there is a medical procedure that the establishment wants you to take that includes graphene oxide, parasites, spike proteins. And
Ian from Tim Pool told me that graphene is great, so I'm perfectly fine with putting it in my body. I don't know what you're talking about. Rainbow fentanyl is where monkeypox came from.
Are you know cool, that, Kareem? Are you cool with self-assembling nanobots?
Self-assembling Autobots assemble.
Yeah, that's nice. I'm awake now.
I'm gonna go get a tinfoil hat.
So, okay, but seriously, so going back to ORS teams, an ORS team is literally just it's a response to the problem.
It's just not DARE
the solution.
Yeah.
So this is all 200. So it's like, what is this $290 million really for?
I gotta mention this.
Just Monday, they're just throwing money.
Just 2 milligrams. Just 2 milligrams of fentanyl. Look at the difference in the spelling of milligrams as a word and that girl's last name.
Yeah,
it's like barely even. It's so great. I love that I noticed that. Fentanyl remains the deadliest drug threat facing this country, according to the CDC. Yeah. Fuck it.
Here's the funny thing. This is what happens when you have a monopoly on force and there's no accountability. Hey, I want $100 million to research what if banana peels have electric conductivity. Yeah, okay, yeah, here you go. I want $200 million to know if which salad dressing tastes good. Like, oh, okay, here you go. I find ranch is pretty good.
I mean, like those $50,000 hammers.
If there's a $50,000 hammer, let me know.
You don't know about that?
No, I don't.
The Army Corps of Engineers during the Iraq War, the money that they were getting from the government, they would just list it as retarded things on the list out forms. So it'd be like $50,000 ball peen hammers because they had to put the money somewhere. And so they're just like, hey, this hammer costs $50,000, doesn't it, Ted? And Ted goes, yeah. And the accountant goes, yeah, it costs $50,000, doesn't it, Ted? And that's what they list. I'll point out my grandmother was a postmaster on J Bear, the largest military base in Alaska. So she that stuff was real. Like they were fucking dude. It was like staplers that cost like $15,000.
Could you imagine a legitimate business? You're like, yeah, I spent $50,000 on a hammer. I would fire the dude.
I don't know what you're talking about.
And I would come to his house and beat him with a stick. Just like, don't you believe in the NAP? No, you're an idiot.
I don't know what you're talking about. Last I checked, a box of toothpicks was $850.
Yeah, I mean, with inflation, it might be.
Graphene is the future, bro. It's blunt.
Speaking of, no.
That would be...
Dude, I have a dab rig. I'm about to fire up. Dude, we have 2 Ians now. Do we know that? Yeah. Who here has been introduced to the second Ian?
Not me.
You guys gotta go check out Joshua Smith's show, guys. His co-host, every time he has a show, I'm in the chat bullying his new co-host, and it's hilarious.
Oh, yeah?
Because we're all just referring to him as Ian now. He is Josh's Ian.
Yeah. Oh, okay, cool. Hey, Leighton, I'd say you're really breaking the cycle with that one.
Kill yourself. Kareem is our Ian.
Fuck you, man.
I got work in the week, Kareem. Nice, but I'm gonna head out. Nice hanging with you guys.
You too, John.
Try not to fly away in the middle of the night.
Take care,
I will
babe.
do that. Like,
yeah, the hurricane isn't that bad.
Guys. Take care.
Night. Everybody go follow Josh. I'm trying to get Josh and Shannon up to 1,000 followers on Twitter. That's going to be my next mission.
Josh Alofka or Smith?
Okay, going back to $290 million for the reboot of Dare that no one asked for.
That no one asked for.
Yeah,
that is such it's just okay. I just want to point out how boomer that is. Like, how boomer is it that like what do you call this? The ORS. It's just that's like this one. Whenever I took Dare, I'm pretty sure I've told you guys the story, but I'll tell you again. So like, I was a freshman or 8th grade whenever Dare, like my last like year of Dare, and they came and they put undercover footage, like a body cam of a person at a rave. And I thought that was the coolest shit I'd ever seen. Personally. I thought, man, those people look like they're having a good time. What was the drugs they were on? What were they taking? You know, real quick, you know, just ecstasy. Okay. And like, they would be like, that girl, you see that girl? She's getting like Vicks blowing in her face and shit. She's like, having the best time. And he's like, that girl's about to die. And I was like, that girl looks like she's about to die happy. And again, where was this footage from? I just want to make sure none of my friends ever go there. And I have the address to make sure they never go there. And that's all this is going to do. And the more that you talk about fentanyl and how dangerous it is, and the more dumb kids, these same kids that ate Tide Pods a few years back.
Hey, they're doing NyQuil chicken now.
NyQuil chicken. They've moved on, CD. They've evolved.
Yeah, get your cough. Yeah, they take NyQuil and put it in chicken and eat it. It's good for it.
Have you not seen this?
No, I have not.
CD, we're going to introduce CD to NyQuil chicken.
You're not a real libertarian if you don't know what NyQuil chicken is.
Yeah, if you don't eat your NyQuil.
I just don't think I am. Like, Okay, well, they ate Tide Pods. Now they drink NyQuil out of chicken. I'm sorry.
No. You take NyQuil and you put it in chicken, you marinate it, and you cook it.
Why?
It's a TikTok challenge. Because people are dumb. I mean, people
They
voted
ate Tide Pods a few years ago, and now they think that's a good idea. I'm done. I'm out of here. Off this planet. I'm done.
Paying taxes to psychopaths helps society, so I don't know. I mean, I'm not surprised people are eating NyQuil chicken. It is a thing. I'm not making
And usually I use about 4/3 of the bottle. And if it's your first time doing this, you can get away with using about a fifth. Season that NyQuil in there just at the right temperature. You're gonna want to let it sit there and sizzle for about 5 to 10 minutes. Make sure you're constantly flipping over the chicken. You don't want to give one side.
Why is he using his girlfriend's straightener?
The steam that's
a straightener.
I'm aware.
NyQuil chicken.
We're looking for is that blue color right there. All right.
He's holding it with the straightener.
Ooh, yeah.
Yeah, but that looks good. Wouldn't you eat that?
Right back into the NyQuil can, just like that. And boom, NyQuil chicken, bone apple teeth.
NyQuil chicken.
NyQuil chicken, CD.
Oh my God.
It looks so good. It looks so good. I'd rather eat NyQuil chicken than do the medical procedure. How about that? So how about that?
I'm just cooking. I'm just thinking about the smell that would consume your whole house. Your whole house would have to just get thrown away because you never get it out. Like cooking.
Burn it down and move on.
It's like trying to get meth out of your house. You never get the meth smell out of your house. Don't ask me how I know that. Just know that you cannot get the meth smell out of your house.
Calm down, Breaking McCrae.
Hey man,
oh man,
I cook my chicken in NyQuil because I'm a cold killer. There has one of Joe Biden with the mask and he's sleeping. It says when the NyQuil chicken hit just right, and he's just
yeah. Congress stuffs $12 billion in Ukraine aid in the Stopgate funding bill. So
There's
we're just
Babylon B meme. Did you see this? It literally said $5 billion.
Normal shit. It's $12 billion. I mean, literally, I've had people tell me that. Oh well, CD, it's just $12 billion, and I'm like, what's wrong with you people? What is wrong with you? Like,
dude, just give me one of those billions.
You're just so desensitized to like the word of money. Right? Like you're so
don't care.
You have no idea what a billion is. You have no idea what a million. Most of you don't know what a million is. Much less they can't even fathom 12 billion. And it's like because people just throw these words around all the time, right? It's just like billions, millions, trillions. Who fucking cares? And like, no, that's insane. That's insane. So okay, if we do the math on that, we've covered 2 articles in 2 days that talk about 12 billion and 290 million. You know what I mean? Like, it just starts to add up. So
I was just trying to talk with New Hampshire about 6 million, but that stirred up a whole bunch of controversy.
Right? They really don't like that number neither. They don't like that number. As long as
why don't we
it's
just get on the subscription package?
The subscription package.
But yeah, so that money is going to go to
nothing.
Nothing to Ukrainian people.
Money laundering.
It's going to weapons and that's it. Like that's it. Like that's all they say is like it'll go to weapons. Like if you look at it, it'll just go to weapons and nothing. So
here's another one.
Cover that up.
White House switchboard called phone linked to January 6th riot or after attack.
Okay, so this is fun. So a guy wrote a book who apparently Wriggler, I think is his name or something like that, something gay like that. And look, Wriggleman, even gayer. And so he wrote a book called The Breach. And they talk about this phone call that was mysteriously sent out, and it was to say Roger Stone. Simultaneously this week, that comes out, and clips from a upcoming documentary on Roger Stone, him saying, "Bring on the violence, basically let there be blood." As far as the election,
play that. I think you sent it to me.
I found his comments common, honestly. Like he is paid for his
grifter.
Yes, he's a grifter. So when he says, if you see Antifa, you do something, yeah, he's gonna say that. Yeah, he's gonna say that. You know what I mean? Like if you and he makes a comment. One of the big comments that the media made a big deal about was he says, oh, I forgot. Now I forgot.
I can play the clip.
Yeah, play the clip. Yeah, that's a good. Yeah, start there.
So I've got to play it from your DM because that's how you sent it to me. So give me 1 second. This is going to show.
I remember. Yeah, we'll play it and I'll tell you.
What they're assuming is the election will be normal. The election will not be normal. Oh, these are the California results? Sorry, we're not accepting them. We're challenging them in court. If the electors show up at the Electoral College, armed guards will throw them out. I'm the president. You. You're not stealing Florida. You're not stealing Ohio. I'm challenging all of it, and the judges we're going to are judges I appointed. You. You're not stealing the election. That's basically what Bush did to Gore. So, if they want to run a bunch of fake ballots, we'll have an investigation. We'll say, these ballots are fake. Yep. Your results are invalidated. Goodbye. That's the way it's going to have to work.
Wow.
It's going to be really nasty.
Wow.
But you cannot count on, we're not going to get an honest election.
Right.
So let's say that Trump is a little behind right now, which he probably is. That doesn't bother me, but even if he wins an honest election, we're not going to have an honest election.
Got it.
They're stealing us blind in Florida right now. So, it's not the first time it's happened in this country. It happens around the world.
Yeah.
So he's going to have to fight for the presidency in the courts. Our next election will be decided in the courts.
Wow.
Because they cheat, and we don't cheat. Yeah. We've never cheated.
So this was July 9th.
Okay. So, I just want to break. So one thing we can all agree on is that the 2016 election was different, and we knew that. We knew that going in. It was going to be different. Again, he's a paid grifter. That is everything he just said is his job. That's his job to say that. He's supposed to be 100% behind his candidate. If his candidate has zero support come election day, that guy is his one guy. So he's doing his job.
Right.
To say that it happens around the world, it absolutely does.
It does.
To say that it doesn't, it's like it's happened here. Not a lie. To say they don't play those dirty games, you're a little stretchy stretch. But I thought that the interesting part of that whole clip is that the headline on CNN is, this election will be different, or this election will be whatever. And yeah, it was. We had mail-in ballots. It's different. And I don't know, out of all that he said, I just found it interesting that that's the part that they harped on. And I am really interested to see this documentary now, for real, because it's done by some Scandinavian, Norwegian, somebody. And I think Roger Stone is fascinating. I think
Roger Stone's an interesting character.
I think he's very interesting. And his
Actually,
rise
we're
to
talk
power.
about elections, Leighton. If it's
Say
cool.
again?
If we're going to talk about elections, I have some stuff to say about Italy because I did look at it.
Yeah.
It's good and bad.
I like that girl.
I am in the
I
middle.
don't. So here's the thing. I have at the vape shop that I go to, we have an Italian girl who works there. And she talked to me about some of it. She has some backings of some groups that I'm definitely not a fan of. Specifically like the World Economic Forum shit and some of the
Wait, what?
So
okay.
so you know the Green Pass?
Mm-hmm.
That was a thing that was supposed to be done in Italy, basically. She is a proponent of that. I'm one of the people who's pushed for it before. That is basically, that's straight out of the World Economic Forum. Like, that's something they have pushed for in the past too. And it's what it is the idea that, like, you can't do anything agriculturally or that puts out emissions without the government giving you basically a permit to do so. It would basically put them in an energy lockdown in a bunch of areas, along with a bunch of other stuff for farming and things like that. So I don't know. It's a mixed bag.
She has to get that passed. So are there people below her that support it too?
I think that's my point. I think she's a mixed bag in the sense that obviously she's not a libertarian leader. She's not, and I think she is a more conservative leader. She's probably going to be good in the long run for Italy. Mainly because I think Italy's in a position where you have Greece and Turkey in a position where they could be at war at any moment, and that has been going on for a while now. And because of that, if Italy is in the middle of a conflict that breaks out between Greece and Turkey, they're going to be put in a position where they need to have a military. They need to actually be able to defend themselves and go into some form of battle in a sense. And I think the Italian people see that writing on the wall, and so they view her as somebody that can get that done. And I think that's right. I think she is somebody that can get that done. So in that sense, she's probably going to be very good for the country. But at the same time, I think she's going to play ball with some individuals nationally that I probably wouldn't want her to. So it's a mixed bag.
Don't all of our people do that?
Oh, I agree. Absolutely. I don't think she's no different than any other world leader or politician. But that's my point, is there's a lot of people right now who are trying to push her. They're trying to push her above the other world leaders and politicians, and I don't think that's how this works. She's just another. She's definitely a better conservative than the majority of the world leaders we are seeing right now. But she is certainly not great. She's certainly not a perfect leader. She's not going to lead Italy into some revolution or referendum.
Two big problems. I had two really big problems through actually. Now that you tell me the Green Pass. See, my problem, and I'll preface it with this. I see a lot of these, like, Italy first, like America first type people, and some people are, but there's a lot of people, even Trump described them as half nationalistic and half globalistic. So a lot of these, like, national, quote unquote, family first, country first people have a lot of ties to, like you're saying, globalist institutions I don't like. And now you're saying the World Economic Forum that kind of makes sense, because generally they're the ones trying to get involved in elections and push their people in places like in Parliament and this, so they can enact these crazy.
So I do want to correct one thing that I mentioned, which was the Green Pass. When I mentioned the Green Pass, there's two things. There's a Green Pass that references the vaccination passport, which she also supported. There is the Green Pass that I was also referring to, which I guess isn't actually called that. I thought that was what it was called, but I'm mistaken.
Oh, okay.
It's called something else, but it's basically like the World Economics Forum's like template for like what they're doing in like Germany and parts of Sweden and that shit with the farmers were revolting against, with the kind of idea that like you have to meet these emission guidelines under this area, or you can't operate like this many cattle or this many this or this, down the line.
Okay.
So I just want to make sure because
and you know why that is?
They're two separate things.
Yeah. Well, that's a huge problem. Well, there's a couple huge problems here. One is that Green Pass, because the World Economic Forum is about depopulation, and what they want to do is use climate change as a fundamentally crazy scapegoat so they can control supply lines and destroy food, and also cause an energy crisis. And that is also part of why they're doing it. Now, there's also actually, I find this funny. She says nationalistic stuff and she's against the EU. That's good. But from what I can see, and I'm not saying Styx, Hex, and Hammer's the authority on it. I've found a lot of his stuff to be utterly ridiculous. I think Dave did beat him in the debate. I think sometimes he says stuff that's weird. And dude, if you're gonna wear a shirt that's open on a video, hit the bench press. That be Sticks Hexenhammer is a commentator, but he's been doing it for a while. I'm not a fan of Sticks, but I like watch him here and there. I don't hate him. I don't love him. I've been watching him recently because he debated Dave. He said, because a lot of people are like, oh, Putin has a new ally. She won. She's Putin ally. She liked Putin. It's like, no, she's pro-NATO. And if
she made one comment that was great on that regard, which she made a comment about the immigration stuff and looped it into the Ukraine thing, which she said that if when you see the immigrants coming in from Ukraine, they're women and children first because the men are staying back to fight. But when you see the immigrants coming in from places like Africa and different areas that are immigrating into Italy, she goes, what we see is the men are coming over and leaving the women and children over there. So that was her kind of idea of like, I think she's a little more closed borders, obviously, than the past people in Italy's.
I would be too.
Yeah, Mario and them. But my problem is she still supports NATO.
Yeah, and you're 100% right.
Super anti. Like, to me, that I'm not saying that's a complete deal breaker, but that is going to make me pretty angry with you because I hate NATO.
Look, I'm not arguing with you. I'm not arguing with you, Kareem, because NATO's terrible. But
NATO's pushing us to nuclear war.
Like you just said, they're potentially looking at a war or a threatening war between Turkey and Greece. Being a part of NATO ensures they're protected.
No, it doesn't.
Well, here's the thing.
To me, being part of NATO,
I will agree and disagree with Kareem on this because I don't think NATO is real protection. Like, it's not.
It's not, but that's public perception.
But it is public perception in the sense that NATO, when you are a member of NATO, other countries are a lot less likely to entangle themselves in any warfare with you because there's this oligarchy in the West called the United States that will immediately fund anybody who's willing to fight against you because it becomes a proxy war in that sense and they can make money off of it. So it's not the sense that NATO is this benevolent force. It's that it's the best of the worst scenarios that those countries have at this point, and the U.S. knows it. They've put them in a situation where their only choice is NATO, where they don't have another option.
They do have another option.
They can't have them.
Here's the thing. Italy's not a huge thing in NATO, but as far as I'm concerned, NATO's the one. It's not just the United States with the Ukraine thing. NATO's the one pushing. I mean, I'll quantify this too. Yes, NATO's a bunch of different countries. It is mostly the United States who is most of NATO's strength. But NATO collectively, like the UK, the US, I read, and a couple European countries told Zelensky, as much as I don't like Zelensky, oh, don't negotiate with Russia, no peace deal, you keep on fighting, you keep going. And now because of all these stupid NATO leaders, that retard Boris Johnson's gone, an idiot, that who's ever advising the U.S. to keep is gone. But to me, NATO's pushing nuclear war with Russia and China. So to me, I don't know. It seems to me like protection that's going to get you killed, and it's protection.
Right, but again, you're missing my point. We all understand that that's the outcome of it, is that it's not going to be good long term. We all understand this. But at the moment of, we have countries over here who don't like us and countries over here who don't like us, who are right next to us in a lot of cases. You have to make an immediate decision for your people. And in most cases, they're going to side with NATO because they have no other choice.
Italy's not threatened by Turkey or Greece, though, I don't think.
Well, I understand that. The idea is that if those two countries get into some kind of conflict, which is almost inevitable at this point, what you will have happen is Greece is going to turn to support, or one of those two countries will turn to support from Italy. And if they give it, then they're entangled in the war. If they don't give it, then whatever country wins could be at odds with Italy, and then want to move into their territory as well.
Yeah, because
they have to make a decision on who's going to protect them.
One distinction, though. Turkey's part of 3 alliances because I looked this up. Yes, we know what NATO is. Then there's another one called like the Shanghai Corporation thing, and those are like the BRICS nations. Turkey's part of that, and they're part of the Muslim, if you want to call it an Arab NATO created by Saudi Arabia called the OIC, which is I don't consider it an Islamic counterterrorism thing, but that's their stated purpose. Saudi Arabia is full of crap, though, so I don't believe that. But Turkey's very, very complicated because Turkey, I don't know where and it's part of 3 continents, technically. Like when I say
I'm simply stating if you're Italy and you have 2 neighboring areas next to you who are at risk of going to war with each other, your entire purpose at that point is to garner protection for if that happens. And the only person that can offer protection is the U.S. So your option is NATO or nothing. That's what's left on the table. The U.S. has put these countries in a box. They put them in a situation where they can't pick anything but NATO or just being at risk of destruction.
Yeah, they can work with Russia and China if they want to. Am I wrong?
And
you're not wrong. But if they did that, then they'd be at war with the West, and they'd be the target of the proxy war.
The West is causing all.
Dude, understand this, right? If you're one country, right, and the U.S. doesn't want you to exist, you cease to fucking exist. That's what's going to happen.
It didn't happen to Syria, did it? Bashar al-Assad actually won.
Does Syria still exist?
Yes, it does. The United States might not. I don't know. I still hold it against her because I don't look at things nationalistically. I look at them from a very local perspective. So,
well, I don't think you have to
and appreciate that, but no one else does.
Okay.
I think you don't even have to necessarily brand it as nationalism to have the idea that you need to have some form of protection against a foreign entity. I mean, I don't see
and they're not going to look at their local people and say, "Hey, go form militias so that we can protect ourselves." When they
imagine if there was no U.S. and all the states were independent, right? Like you have that perfect scenario or dream scenario, right?
No,
and one of the neighboring states wants to make a military concord with another state, so they have a pact of protection, right? They're clearly doing that because they think there's an adverse risk that another country could invade them or go to war with them in part. Like that's exactly what Italy's position is. So if her position is joining NATO is smart, then I don't see how that's nationalistic or anything like that.
I agree completely. I think she's doing the right thing too.
No, she's not.
Right. I mean, if we didn't have, and that's the thing. NATO is evil because of what it does to countries like Italy. That's why it's evil.
Because of what it is.
But it doesn't change the option that's on the table. It's a bad marketplace, but it's a marketplace that you have to trade in regardless.
And if I'm in Italy and I don't know what I know, I would be pissed the fuck off if she was like, okay, we're not gonna be a part of NATO, or we're not
we're just gonna let it ride.
Right, what
do that.
Well, no, because you know what the result of that is, correct? The result of that is the U.S. then takes CIA agents into Turkey and causes a war between Greece and Turkey and allows Italy to be overtaken during a proxy war that they'll fund. Because then China and all these other countries will want to fund it and get involved. That's how that works. It's always worked that way.
Come on.
Every time.
That's not going to happen.
That's what's happening right now in Ukraine.
That is what happens.
That's literally what's happening in front of us. I don't know what you're not seeing. That's the scenario.
So if any country leaves NATO, CIA will be there the next day to oust them.
If any country opposes the West, they will be fucking destroyed or put under economic distress they've never seen before. We've seen it with every fucking country right now we're seeing destroyed by the West, including Yemen. Like, I don't understand how that's not clear.
Why don't you just walk in the
Yemen
club
wasn't done by the
and
CIA.
then call y'all and then wait and see if you'll get shot?
The idea that there wasn't CIA or U.S. intelligence in Yemen at any point before it happened.
No, there was. Here's the thing.
The only reason we're there is because of intelligence. Intelligence,
quote unquote.
That's the only reason we're there.
But here's the thing: the U.S. is on its last leg, as far
everyone
as
everyone knows the picture of
the U.S.
Colin
the U.S.
Powell
is setting its skin.
A little vial of baby powder and saying that they found uranium or whatever.
The only thing I'm looking forward to, if Trump really doesn't listen to anyone, which it doesn't seem he does, maybe he'll print another $4 trillion and actually destroy the economy and get hyperinflation.
Yeah, fine. That's one way to do it. The problem is that there's this is the thing. There's a lot of ways to get the government out of people's lives. One way is to literally implode it or explode it by pumping it the way that you're talking about.
Yeah,
but the fact is that is also the way that maximizes destruction of human life. And that's something that a lot of people in the libertarian movement seem to fucking miss. And I don't want America to look like a third world country when you get done with getting your freedom.
Well, I don't think it will. I don't think that's...
Well, I don't think I'm willing to run the simulation. I think that's my point. I think liberty is the idea that we have built an awful lot freely over the last few hundred years in this country. And the fact that we would erase it all just because the government wants their greedy hands on it is stupid.
I don't think we'd lose liberty. I think what would happen is people would switch to gold, Bitcoin, some kind of crypto. They're trying...
okay.
If you want,
the government holds deeds right now to everybody's property, Kareem. Right? Okay. Let's go run. No, I want to explain this as basically as I can right now. Right? Okay. There's thousands of people in the state that I live in who own property in the state of Alaska. They're thousands of miles from Washington, D.C. They've never met their fucking senator. They don't know who their governor is, and they don't give a fuck. All right? When the government is dissolved, those deeds are dissolved. Who the fuck is going to protect their property? Who's going to tell them who owns what? Who's going to tell them somebody can't move into their land, take their gold, take their silver, kill them, and plunder the rest? The only thing that protects them from doing that is some form of community basis protection. We all understand that as libertarians. NATO is exactly that, but for countries, for large swaths of people, right? NATO itself is not an evil thing, right? We would have thousands of those exact organizations built just like it across the U.S. and across states if we could. But right now, those countries don't have multiple options. They have NATO or oppose the West. And one of those options ends up with economic cruelty, dead people, starving children, and pestilence and fucking brimstone. So, yeah, I think you're in a bit of a catch-22 as one of those world leaders.
But being with NATO, here's the problem. NATO still probably could equal nuke. I don't know if he'll use an actual nuke, but he seems crazy enough to do it. I mean, he's bombed his own people before, like you said, to get into power. So
he's talking about Putin. Yeah, I think it's perfectly possible that Russia would decide that they need to launch a nuke somewhere into Ukraine. The idea that it would be a nuke that would do absolutely anything to the U.S. other than maybe the state that I'm in is absurd. So I don't think it's the business of the United States to get involved with a neighboring country invading another. It is not our business. The same way, if there was the exact same way as a Jewish person who has Jewish family, I can say that if other Middle Eastern countries want to go to war with Israel because they feel that they've done something wrong to their people, they should have the right to, then I can stand and say, yeah, this is a fucked situation and NATO should be able to protect them. Same situation for Israel, by the way. If they have a NATO that's offering them protection, they'd be dumb not to take it. So I don't see any situation in which this exact scenario wouldn't already exist in a libertarian or anarchist world.
It could in smaller decentralized communities, but not.
Of course, that's what we want. We don't want this mega.
Okay, so do you think there's never going to be wide-scale war in Ancapistan?
There could be. Not wide scale, but I think there could be.
Oh, there will be.
There will 100% be wide-scale war. Do you think that war ceases to be a marketplace after Ancapistan rises?
I think large scale, like you said large scale war, correct?
I'm talking about a nation going to war with another nation, or a group of people going to war with another group of people. That's large-scale war.
It becomes drastically lower. I can play.
I agree with you, but you're missing my point. Do you not think? I understand your point. I'm saying, do you not think it's going to continue to be an issue regardless of the scale, how many times it happens, right? I don't like school shootings. If there's 100 school shootings in a day, that's a fucking problem. If there's 3 school shootings in a day, it's still a fucking problem. Like, it doesn't change the fact that it's an issue.
Like I said, to answer your question, will there be conflict? Yes.
Serbia did somewhat hold their own, yes. But ultimately, that's what I'm saying. Under what cost, right? I want the Thanos meme right here, right? What was the cost? What did it cost you? Everything. Right? Because Syria stood their own, losing a bunch of women and children and good men and fucking decent fucking people who had no decision made. They were thrusted into it because their government decided that was something they wanted to do.
But to answer your question, Leighton, honestly, I think, like working with my friend Jeremiah Harding and stuff like that, we can end wide-scale war by using the Ricardian law of association to figure out how anarcho-capitalist societies, syndicalist societies, primitivist societies, transhumanist societies can work together to mitigate large-scale conflict. There would still be local issues. There would probably
we know how to mitigate large-scale conflict through Mises and Hoppe and thousands of writers who've said it's free trade, right? Free trade stops war because countries trade with each other. There's no incentive to fight because then the trading stops.
And that's how you
stop conflict.
You can use blood for you too. You can use,
but we're not going to have open trade. There's nothing right now that is being offered to the U.S. by fucking Turkey in that sense, or Italy in that sense, to the scale that they're not willing to trade the lives of thousands of fucking their people and just wash them away to the sands of time so that some other country can gain some power there because the West feels like it. That's what we've seen over and over and fucking over again. We've seen the U.S. be part of genocides because they dislike the other side of their government. Like, it's not, this isn't some secret thing. Like, we all as libertarians have read, I've read Scott Horton talk about this stuff. I've read different people like Mises who talked about in war papers and things like that. The fact is this is all bad. War is not good at any resolve. No one wants it to happen. It shouldn't happen, fine. But it does. And in any society you can create in your head, no matter how utopian, it's gonna fucking exist. And it's gonna be thousands of people dead because thousands of other people want to fight them. And so, making military pacts with neighboring nations and countries and societies or individuals is gonna be how that's stopped. And free trade on top of that, obviously, is like, as I stated before.
You have to establish those trade lines first. You have to establish.
Right, but that's my point.
That gets established through war. No one agrees. No one sits down at the table and says, "That sounds like a good idea." No.
The truth is, no one wants to admit that there is areas of the world that are useless in a sense, that cannot offer other countries anything. Sam Kinison, rest in peace, has a fucking amazing joke about this, where he screams on stage about African children needing a quarter a day to eat, and he's screaming about fucking move. You move to a fucking desert. We have deserts in America. No one fucking lives in them. Fucking move, right? And he's right? Like, sometimes countries need to come to the realization that they need to fucking move. It's time to move on. There's nothing there to offer. Some of them have religious ties, which is why they don't. But the U.S. isn't going to be involved in propping up countries because of their religious ties. And other countries, if they want to be, can prop them up. But again, that's going to be done through cohesive packs of religious people, the same way that you might build a NATO to do it with the military. So, right? Like, I don't see how anything you can create gets away from having some kind of group that makes a decision, because how is a single country, right, decides to go to war with another single country? That is never going to be, I mean, that's the plain scenario we all envision in our head, but half the time that's never going to be what happens. Because the majority, I would say, would be people going to war with one country, and that country is protected by this country, and that country is protected by this country, and they share some resources and some utility, and they have nationalist individuals who live in that country who want a paycheck, who will fight for them, right? So that's the mercenary system, which was, in my opinion, the best military system you can have, right? I have a bunch of people who like to fight. I'm going to pay them to come and fight. That's what you're going to see. So when you see a country who garners a bunch of mercenaries, decides to go war with another country, of course I'm okay with that other country having protection. Like, so the same way they can buy the mercenaries, they can buy NATO. You know, it's like, I don't like it. There's no difference to me. I get NATO in the sense that we're talking about like the government relation to it. Is, yeah, it's a strong arm, but it kind of has to be in a sense to do what they're doing with it.
Yeah, but I'm looking at good.
None of that is saying it's good. None of that's saying what NATO. None of that is saying what NATO's actions are doing are benevolent or good or something I want to see happen. It's saying that right now there is no other option because of what the U.S. has done with their power overseas. Like, that's what they've done with it.
Yep.
With France's help in particular.
Yeah, and I'm not a fan of those either.
Yeah.
And to me,
because France is the silent, like, second majority. No one mentions them.
Yeah.
But they have a ton of power in NATO.
They do. With Emmanuel Macron and all those sides. Are there other options? To me? You put a lot there, so I can start to unpack it. Would there be first of all, answer the thing about, like, because I didn't actually want to be the host of this show, but
we're all hosts of the show.
Yeah,
that's not how this works. I just like to talk a lot.
Yes. All right. Okay. I'm gonna go a little bit primitive here and scare some people, because if anybody knows me and they probably think I'm nuts now.
No, fuck no. You got the floor.
I sit around and look at Somali warlords, and I had a particular interest in that. I don't know why. Probably because of Dr. Leeson talking about it, and people taunted me during the Bush era saying just move to Somalia. So I sat there and looked at how interclan relationships work, and I don't see why that would be bad for even countries if you have that in an ANCAP world, or you have that in a more decentralized world, to, instead of military pacts, make blood feuds. Now, I know that sounds scary, but most of the time feuds actually do create peace systems. You can look at David Friedman's paper on medieval Iceland, but 9 times out of 10, it creates equilibrium behavior because people are too scared to mess up. One example that worked with interclan relationships in Somalia that I would like to see different nations doing, and particularly if I even had the ability to be an ambassador or something, I'd set this up, is something like, if you kill one person from my country or my tribe or whatever it is, Mike, then you have to pay everybody from your country or everybody from your government has to pay a price. And it's an exorbitant amount. You can make a crazy amount to that population or to that other government, quote unquote. And to me, that's a better way of doing it than just globalist military alliances or even nationalistic military alliances, is to have countries engage in some type of blood feud system. And with smart contracts, I think, especially in Ethereum and stuff, that could be done even easier. My friend Max and me have talked about an idea where if you invade a country, maybe all your GDP and net worth tips and goes to that other country that you invade. That's what I'd like to see in the future. Some kind of regulation system based on financial incentives. My argument was this, kind of coming out of my hippie punk phase, is that people are violent. Sometimes it's not any enlightened thing. Sometimes it's, I love Ron Paul and Mark Passio, but sometimes I don't get in fights with people because it'd be too expensive to kill someone. And I think that should be applied to even violent people. And the way to stop it, war, to me, without these entangling military alliances, which George Washington so promptly warned about, is make war too expensive, because everything to me comes down to incentives. Right. Now, to me, for Italy, what are the potential alternatives? Well, you're going to say, one thing is this: if you're going to say you're against globalism, for one, then be against globalism. It's kind of like me saying I'm vegan and then I'm pulling up like beef jerky on this show, like, oh, this cow tastes good. Oh, but I don't eat chicken, or vice versa. I don't. Oh, I eat fish, but I don't. To me, I think since the U.S. is in a state where they can barely handle their own things, like you're saying, CIA agents and that, I think our power is significantly dwindled because of internal problems and stuff like that. I think people know that. I honestly think the CIA probably is too preoccupied with doing whatever stupid things they are that they wouldn't get involved in Italy. I don't see that being a case. I think if there's going to be any forward momentum in opposing global institutions, yes, being against the EU is good, but people need to start saying that, hey, NATO is, as David Icke called it, the North Atlantic Terrorist Organization. It would be nice to see countries actually oppose it. Otherwise, this military alliance isn't going to go away. We saw that they caused some devastation in Libya, saw that they caused devastation all around the world. And to me, that devastation karmically will come back on the countries who are part of that thing. Not to mention, here's another issue with NATO. If the United States, if you're part of NATO, the key goes, or how I'm trying to say this, the dial goes both ways. So you're minding your own business. You're getting protection from the United States. What if the United States does get in a hot war with Russia or China or Taiwan? And you say like, oh, well, that's just Biden. Well, Steve Bannon was on Tim Pool's show and he said we have to take a stand in Taiwan. The only presidential candidate I know who's not going to fight with Taiwan is Dave Smith. I don't think he's realistically going to win, and we agree with that. So if you're part of NATO and NATO goes to war, well, guess what? You have to go to war with NATO. So, and you're a small country, like, I don't want to be involved. Now you have to. So it's not just kind of a win-win situation like you're saying. I think I would rather be not involved with NATO because, hey, I see the United States wants to go to war with everybody. The United States is in every proxy war, every global war. I think you could argue the United States is involved in. I'm sure they're involved in Azerbaijan and Serbia and they're definitely involved in Yemen. They're at war with Russia now. It's just a proxy war. But if the United States goes to war with Russia, then Italy has to fight Russia. I don't think Italy wants to fight Russia because Russia has the most nukes in existence. And they're allied with Belarus and stuff. So that also pulls you into a conflict by proxy as well. So it gives you protection, but also pulls you into a conflict. I don't think the Italians want to be pulled into a conflict. And really, is the U.S. really your allies when they put the worst bioweapon on the face of the planet that does have self-assembling nanobots, that does have graphene oxide, that does have a deadly spike protein? That's not an ally. As far as I'm concerned, your so-called ally has done a warfare weapon attack on you. Proxy by China, yes, that's true. But Italy got really hit hard by the scary beer flu, which was first engineered in a lab in North Carolina, it was first in Canada, engineered in North Carolina. The psychopath Fraudgy took it to China, and then China used it for their own ambitions. So by proxy, we've done a lot worse to Italy, to the United States already. That's
Okay.
my argument.
Let me. I'm gonna cover one thing up top, which was,
that
No, that was great. The first thing you talked about, which was the idea, which was, I'm gonna lose my train of thought now because I'm too stoned. But you were talking about in the first part, before the Italy stuff. You mentioned something about the first thing we talked about. What was it? Damn it.
I mentioned Somali clans using blood feuding and saying
right. Okay. Right. So that idea you had for big financial burdens,
yes,
on countries if they get involved with military entanglements, right?
Yes.
Who do you suppose would
not military entanglements, killing?
Right. Right. But similarly, right? If you go to war with somebody, that's going to involve killing people, right?
Mm-hmm.
Right. So,
not even more. Let's just say this.
My question is this. Just let me pose this real quick. Okay. What body or force is going to enforce the payment of that money from that group to another? Is it going to be backed by military force? Is it going to be backed by government? Is it going to be backed by a bunch of people willing to put forward military force? Because that sounds an awful lot like NATO.
No, I hope not. I really hope not. Well, my answer to you is a couple of things. The way they did it in interclan relationships in Somalia post Blackdown is like they had village elders and they got people together, diplomats, to make these agreements without having to use violence. If someone doesn't want to pay, in that case, what you would probably do is you would use some form of courts,
which is always gonna. That can only loop back to one thing, which is ultimately some form of force. What I'm trying to get through to you is what you just described is on some scale exactly what NATO is supposed to be, even if it does it horribly. That system would be recreated over and over and over again across nations and countries. So whether or not it is exactly like NATO or just somewhat close to it.
NATO's a military alliance. I'm talking about specific contracts. And my answer to you, actually, let me give you a better answer. The dollars are failing everywhere. Fiat's not going to last forever. Give me 1 second. Fiats are not lasting forever. So my answer to you would be, well, Ethereum, thank God, came out with things called smart contracts where certain obligations are fulfilled. I don't know how everything will work. I'm going to take the ANCAP card and say I don't know exactly how this would work in practice, but the proof of concept's there. You can make smart contracts that say, hey, if this condition is fulfilled or this condition comes close to being fulfilled, then we execute it on this basis. So you can use blockchain. You can use blockchain technology to promote peace.
Yeah, I agree with you there.
Yeah.
CD, what's your take?
That everything I said before, honestly. That I would love for it to start from a local level where it's like, I don't know, Florida, and like, okay, we're gonna do our thing, and then Mississippi's like, oh man, we don't have the people for this, and we can't feed. We need help. So Florida, protect us. And then it's like, okay, cool.
Eventually, we'll get some anti-war like people in the space on to talk about stuff, and I'll have to bring the question back up to them.
Yeah, so I mean, I would love for it to go from. I would love for it to go from that point, and where it's just like, and then like no, like we don't let anyone else in, like it's just us, like that's it.
Yeah,
I would also, but I also also really understand the politics game. And the necessity for NATO now that, again, government is only good at creating problems and then creating its own solutions in the form of more problems. So that's what they did. And now their solution is Germany would pay the gas.
Wait, I thought of something. I just need to get up for a second.
Oh.
But Leighton, did you go to here's a question. I'll throw a question and answer. Does your family go to a rabbi or something like that?
Not anymore. No, we used to go to like a temple and stuff.
But would Germany pay the gas fees? Here's another scenario you could do, because a lot of people, even non-secular people, have respect. Even people who don't like religion somehow find respect in that idea. So you could use village elders, you could use religious bodies, you could use stuff like that to say, hey, this is our customary law. We are going with common law in the West.
Right. I agree with all of this.
You get like an imam or a sheikh who's like, okay, this is the rules I'm setting here, and you get them to socially cooperate. You get religious. And I get that. I know people are saying, Kareem, you're not religious. You're the one running around doing this law of attraction videos, even though I did them today. I get that. But it is a way to enforce social norms and governance in the absence of central institutions. Particularly, Somalia did it with two, which is Sharia law and something called here with an X. So, Gaelic Island used.
That sounds like Muncie, New York.
Right.
Yeah.
So I want to say this. I'm all for what you just described. But when you put that on a scale larger than a small community, like, again, I think that just manifests into something similar to NATO. I would also state that on a smaller scale, right, they can have those customs where if you kill somebody, you have a blood tax, this whole thing, right?
Yes.
What happens when a bigger community from outside that one decides to come in and kill a bunch of them?
We don't like the way you live, so you got to die, boy. Like, I mean, yeah.
Like, what is that scenario? Like, how does that play out? Like, do they have any protections? Or, because if not, there's nobody to give a shit about their tax or their death tax when a bunch of them are getting their heads cut off. You know, it's like, so I guess my point of view is like, you can only have the system you're talking about on large scale or on a permanent basis or long-term basis
on any scale
without some kind of outside protection or inner protection so large it would involve some form of position of authority within other countries, because you'd need help. Like, you can't.
But I said the position of authority would be in this case, because customary law does have basis in Abrahamic thought and things like that. So you can literally, what I would probably do in NCAP stand is say, hey, look, primitivists, get your village elder. So I'm just giving an example. Syndicalists, get your federation heads, and ANCAPies, get like the head of the common law courts. If somebody lives in a Sharia law community, get your imam or something, and let's come up with literal blood feud deals or blood taxes to say, hey, if someone commits violence, we take this transaction, and you scale that from local all the way up to as large as the society permeates.
Right. Okay. So, right. Once it's as large as the society permeates, right? So say you have Iran, right? Iran has a somewhat homogeneous culture. They are all on the same page. They decide we're going to make... Right. I'm using them as an example, but just in general. Right. So they decide we're going to create this blood feud system where if anybody kills anybody, we pay out this blood tax, and this is how the system works.
Make it that
and
something...
then right, and then Pakistan, which for some reason has grown to be 4 times the size of Iran, decides to invade and kill them all. Right?
That's because of their gender studies program.
Right. Whatever the scenario is, they decide to invade and start killing them and invade their space, and it's brutal, right?
Right.
What does that blood feud do to protect those people from any of that?
That blood feud's this one specifically, it doesn't do anything because that blood feud you established in this case is only in that Iranian sphere. But if Iran starts to see, and I think Iran could presumably see that Pakistan is gaining in power, could come to them and say, hey, we want to make a religious distinction, not a military one, so it's not like NATO, or some kind of economic distinction.
Right, okay, but assume Pakistan says no. Like, assume they say we don't want your religious pact, we don't want to join your blood pact, we're going to invade and kill you. Like, what is they don't what you the scenario you've created is that I'm talking about, and it is a bit of a straw man, but it is a scenario that I could see happening in that world, is that they don't have an ability to defend themselves because they've decided that the only pact they need is between their own people, and they end up dead, and Pakistan ends up on their land because there is no blood pact when you're all dead. And so I see the way they could have been protected from that is if, I don't know, when Pakistan invaded them, they had something like NATO where 4 other countries in that area then defended them against Pakistan. Like, that would have been a scenario where they were actually protected. And then maybe their blood feud could have been held up, because then NATO can create a court system which then goes after the other country, places sanctions, and takes money from them. Which I disagree with as well. We all disagree with this. But what I'm saying is that's the reality, right? This is what would happen in that scenario.
Well, okay, we're gonna use Iran kind of in this scenario. I think Iran has nuclear weapons. One thing you could say is, okay, I'm not going to take your blood pact. Well, we have nuclear weapons. Do you want to get mutually annihilated? That's what happened.
Right.
With the
Okay.
So fine. I know Scott Horton doesn't like this, and we should. And I agree with him, hotter than the sun. And yeah, I made a joke with Tim Miller. He's encroaching on my Second Amendment rights. I don't want to own nukes. I don't like the idea of them. But fine. Iran has a nuke. Pakistan has nukes. So they could mutually kill each other as well. Mutual annihilation or mutual death is one thing that makes a deterrent in the presence of asymmetric strength.
Right.
And also feuds do. If you look at Hatfield's and McCoy's and Romeo and Juliet, it's very clear to me in hardest case anarchy that you can have, if you do the agreements right, protection, and you can have social cooperation.
I agree. But my point is that NATO, in a sense, in an anarchist world, would be anarchist. Like, it's not a government. It doesn't have the power that a government in your state has. But the way that NATO operates today isn't necessarily the way we would want to run it in our, facade in our head. But the fact is, the reality of the situation is, if any scenario arises in which a country is in danger, there is no other group right now that's protecting them. Like, it just doesn't really exist. There's nobody that can match the type of pressure that the West can put on other countries, and we've seen it time and time and again when they meddle.
I think that's dwindling because here's the thing: Saudi Arabia, our quote unquote ally, for God knows what reason, is clearly working with China, whether they want to acknowledge it or not. And I get conservatives are like, tell Berber, but Saudi Arabia is working with China. So is Brazil. So is India. So is Pakistan. So the BRICS nations. And I'm not saying that's good either. That's another form of globalism. You don't need to be a globalist to be in NATO, which I agree with. But my goal is to say, hey, look, those countries are forming pacts against the West. So the West doesn't have, to me, as much pull as you would think. I think a lot of their stuff is paper tiger stuff. A lot of their stuff is empty threats that you don't necessarily need to fall on by crazy globalists and nationalists. So to me, and ultimately what I would say is, what I'm working on with Jeremy, my friend, is my goal is, maybe I won't see in my lifetime or my kids later, my goal is global anarchy, taking down every central institution I can.
No, I'm with you there. So, all right. Well, I wanna close things out here.
Because I think we're all here for the gay army ad.
Oh, fuck! I gotta bring it back up. Damn it!
Did you see Joe?
This is the funniest part. This is the best part.
All right, we'll close out on the gay army ad.
Yes. It's amazing. It's incredible.
I saw the date on it, and I saw it was a little bit old, so I just kind of skipped over it.
No.
I hadn't watched it yet, though.
It's fun. Oh, well, then I'm excited to get your reaction because it's hilarious.
Oh, God, it only has 4 million views. It's not that high.
Because everyone's mad about it, so they're not watching.
Oh my fucking god. They just introed it like a bad, like, reality show.
Keep going.
And then it went into a cartoon. That makes no
This is the
sense.
story of a soldier who operates your nation's Patriot missile defense systems.
Real patriotic.
It begins in California with a little girl raised by 2 moms.
Statistically untrue.
I've seen this.
I think I have seen part of this, yes.
Although I had a fairly typical childhood, took ballet, played violin, I also marched for equality. I like to think I've been defending freedom from an early age. When I was 6 years old, one of my moms had an accident that left her paralyzed.
Took a dildo too big.
Doctor said she might never walk again.
Should have had a blood
She
pack.
tapped into my family's pride to get back on her feet. Eventually standing at the altar to marry my other mom.
She shouldn't be wearing white.
With such powerful role models,
Wow.
I finished high school at the top of my class, and then attended UC Davis, where I joined a sorority full of other strong women.
Lesbians.
But as graduation approached, I began feeling like I'd been handed so much in life. A
You're white and you have money.
sorority girl stereotype. Sure, I'd spent my life around inspiring women, but what had I really achieved on my own?
Nothing.
One of my sorority sisters was studying abroad in Italy. Another was climbing Mount Everest. I needed my
They take dick.
own adventures, my own challenge. And after meeting with an army recruiter, I found it. A way to prove my inner strength.
Killing Middle Easterners.
Hey, man.
Shatter some stereotypes along the way. I'm U.S. Army Corporal Emma Malone Lord, and I answered my calling.
Eating box.
So, okay, I just want to say, I have so many things to say. So this girl, this ad is specifically for 20-somethings that are graduating from college with worthless degrees and have no idea what they're doing with their
Who
life.
are lesbians.
Sure.
They're fabulous.
Or whatever. And they can't afford.
I thought that was a great commentary I gave.
Yes.
Yeah, you're
So,
funny.
probably lesbian. I don't know. I just know they got these worthless degrees and now they don't know what to do with them. And so their next step is the army. And the way that works is if you have a degree, then you go straight to officer school. And then you have girls like that who are in leadership positions in the missile defense system making decisions. Like, yeah. I'm just like, so much there to unpack. No, I never heard anything about her ability to lead or her ability to do anything other than have gay parents.
Well, she talked about how she was in a sorority.
What does that do with anything?
I don't know. It seemed important to her.
Yes, it's not important to being an officer in the military.
I agree. All right, guys. We're going to close things out with that. Everybody
right.
Follow Twitter's on screen. Get Kareem is Kareem for Liberty on Twitter. And Kareem Mays on Facebook. All of our stuff's right there. Share the episode, subscribe, all that good stuff. Peace.